Scientists have achieved the most mind bending breakthroughs in the neuroscience and AI, which is raising some serious questions about our consciousness and reality. They took the entire brain of a living fruit fly, neurons by neurons, every connections, every microscopic pathway, and uploaded it into a computer. The moment it woke up inside the simulation, the virtual fly began to sense, react, and even move its tiny body in ways that mirrored a real fly's behavior. It was tasting, feeling, responding almost as if the brain had truly come alive. And then came the moment that left researchers speechless. The fly started doing things it wasn't even programmed to do, as if it was some kind of insect's matrix simulation. The digital fruit fly, with its newly uploaded brain, began behaving in ways no one had predicted. It explored its virtual environment, groomed itself, and responded to the simulated stimuli. Actions so precise and lifelike that even the researchers who had spent years preparing for this moment were stunned. What this tiny digital creature did after its brain was uploaded on the computer not only amazed the scientists but also opened a doorway to a future that they had only dreamed of. For decades, artificial intelligence has been trying to emulate human mind through clever algorithms, neural nets that learn patterns, reasons, and then perceive it. But AI is a simulation of logic. It's maths trying to act like a mind. Then there is a second, more radical path called whole brain emulation, WBE. Instead of teaching a computer to think like human, WBE says, let's just copy the hardware. If you copy a biological brain, neuron by neuron, and synapse by synapse, and hit play, do you get a soul or at least a living consciousness? Ion Systems just proved that works, at least for a fruit fly. A company called Ion Systems just claimed that they have simulated 125,000 neurons and 50 million synaptic connections of an adult fruit fly. In the video released by the co-founder Alex Gross, you can see the fly rubbing its legs and drinking from a bowl. This is embodied simulation. The brain is closing the loop. Perception leads to the action, and action leads to a new perception. This is not some CGI. This is not reinforcement learning faking it. This is the world's first full whole brain emulation that's actually embodied and producing multiple natural behaviors on its own. Now, to truly appreciate this breakthrough and understand how they did this, we have to talk about the connectome. Think of it as the ultimate wiring diagram. Brains are made up of billions of neurons connected by trillions of synapses. To make this more relatable, imagine every neuron is a person in massive social networking, and every synapse is a connection or friendship between them. The pattern of those friendships define who you are, defining the entire personality, behavior, and the capabilities of that network. For simple creatures like tiny worms C. elegans, they have only 302 neurons. Mapping the complete connectome was already accomplished decades ago. But for animals with more sophisticated behaviors like a fruit fly, it has been an enormous and decades-long challenge. To map a fruit fly, scientists used electron microscopes to slice a brain into sections of 1,000 times thinner, more than a human hair. They used the data from the Flywire project at Princeton, from which they built a functional computational model. For the first time, we have a 3D map where we can see exactly how a fly is behaving in a simulated world. But a brain without a body is just a lonely computer chip. This is where it gets matrixy. The Ion system used a framework called NeuroMech-Fly V2, developed in Switzerland. They gave the digital brain a physical simulated body. The first type sensory neurons. The neurons detect what is happening outside the body and send the information into the brain. Different sensory neurons come from different organs, like visual neurons in the compound eyes, detect the light, motions, and shapes. The olfactory neurons in the antenna detect the smell, and the gustatory neurons detect taste, such as sugar or bitter chemicals. Once this sensory information enters the brain, it is processed by another large group of neurons called interneurons, and these neurons make up the most of the brain's connectome, acting as the brain processing powerhouse. And interneurons connect sensory neurons to other neurons and combine signals from many sources at once. By comparing and analyzing these signals, they help the brain interpret what is really happening. After the brain decides what action to take, it sends the command to the body through the motor neurons. Motor neurons control muscles and convert brain signals into movement. When motor neurons fire, they send signals to the muscles telling them when and how to react. In the simulation, these motor neurons were connected to the virtual muscle of the digital fly. When the brain produced motor signals, the simulated muscles moved, allowing fly to walk, turn, and groom itself. After scientists uploaded this detailed network of neurons into the brain of the digital fruit fly we are talking about, they placed it into a simulated environment on a computer, and then something surprising happened. The virtual fly began to behave in very similar ways to a real fly. One of the very first thing it did was searching for the food. In the simulation, scientists placed a sugar molecule, and the digital fly moved toward it. Then the fly reached the sugar, taste with its neurons, just like a real fly would do. Soon the brain's neural network activated a feeding behavior pattern. This wave of activity spread through connected circuits until it reached to the motor neurons that controls the fly's mouth parts. These motor neurons then send command signals to the muscles, causing them to extend the proboscis, which is the feeding tube flies use to drink liquid food. As the fly began feeding, sensors detected the movement and the interaction with the sugar. Now, this feedback signal traveled back to the brain, allowing it to adjust and coordinate with the movement smoothly. Through this continuous loop of sensing, processing, and responding, the digital fly behaved almost exactly like a real one. But an even more surprising and somewhat unsettling aspect of the digital fruit fly was the appearance of emergent behavior. Emergent behaviors means that actions that arise naturally from the neural network itself without anyone directly programming those actions. Now, scientists did not write instructions such as if the sugar appears, extend the proboscis, if touched, groom the legs. Instead, they only recreated the neurons and connections. The fly just started doing all of its own leg rubbing, body stretching, exploring all from the raw connectome dynamic plus the physics of the body. Now you might say, wait, haven't we seen AI animals before? In 2025, DeepMind released a simulated fly too. But there is a huge difference. DeepMind used the reinforcement learning. They basically told an AI to figure out how to walk and we will give you a digital reward. It mimicked the biology. But the Eon systems didn't teach fly anything. They just copied the biology and it knew what to do. The ghost is no longer in the machine. As Alex Cross says, the machine is becoming the ghost. So what's next? Eon system is already aiming for a mouse brain, but here's the reality check. A mouse brain has 500 times more neurons than a fly, and a human brain, we have about 86 billion neurons. If we ever reach the human scale emulation, we face a paradox that has haunted physicists for years. Are we already in a simulation? If we can upload a fly today and a mouse tomorrow, are we just the sophisticated versions of that fly crawling around in much larger sandbox? We are moving from the era of artificial intelligence to the synthetic life. What do you think? If we upload a human brain synapse to synapse, is that person alive? Or is it just a very complex calculator, just like that fly? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives like this, and I will see you in the next video.